Commander Jack Novak hated these meetings. The Galactic Council Chamber, with its sweeping views of 7 nebulae and floating holo displays, was impressive enough. But it was the smug faces of the Crixian delegates that really made his blood pressure spike. The human delegation appears concerned about our proposed military expansion, Ambassador Krell announced, his 4 eyes blinking in an unsynchronized pattern that Novak had come to recognize as Crixian amusement. Perhaps they require another millennium to evolve beyond their, what do you call it, fight or flight response. The chamber erupted in the various sounds that constituted laughter across 17 sentient species. Novak maintained his diplomatic smile, though his knuckles whitened around his datapad. The Earth Confederation simply suggests that expanding military presence in the Orion Arm might create unnecessary tensions, Novak replied evenly. Our species has a long history of warfare. We've learned caution the hard way. Ambassador Krell's skin rippled in shades of purple, the Crixian equivalent of an eye roll. Yes, we've studied your quaint planetary conflicts. Impressive for primitives who only achieved FTL travel 3 centuries ago. We prefer the term fashionably late to the Galactic Party, Novak quipped, earning a few appreciative clicks from the Ataraxian delegates. High Commander Zentrix of the Crixian Empire rose from his floating day-eyes, his ceremonial armor gleaming under the chamber lights. While we appreciate Earth's concerns, the Crixian Empire has maintained galactic peace for 12 millennia. Your species was still discovering fire when we were mapping dark matter currents. And yet here we are, suggesting that maybe, just maybe, stationing 40,000 warships along disputed territories isn't the best way to make friends, Novak countered. Zentrix's 4 eyes narrowed simultaneously. Your species' fear of conflict is well documented, Commander. Perhaps that's why you've remained insignificant in galactic politics. The Crixian Empire respects strength, not cowering. We're not afraid of war, High Commander, Novak said quietly. We're good at it. Too good. That's why we avoid it. The chamber fell silent for a beat before Zentrix burst into a warbling laugh. On the arrogance, a species barely out of its stellar cradle, lecturing the most powerful empire in the galaxy about warfare. The council session deteriorated from there. 3 hours later, Novak was transmitting an urgent message to Earth Central Command. The Crixians had formally declared their intention to pacify 3 Earth colony worlds as a preventative security measure. They actually did it, Novak muttered to his AI assistant as they boarded his shuttle. They actually declared war on Earth. Calculating possible scenarios, the AI replied. Probability of Crixian victory, 98.7% based on known military assets. Novak smiled grimly. Based on known assets. That's the problem with being 12,000 years old. You start believing your own intelligence reports. As the shuttle pulled away from the council station, Novak watched the massive Crixian dreadnought hanging in space like a predatory sea creature. They had no idea what they'd just started. Poor bastards, he whispered. The human delegation has gone completely silent, reported Intelligence Officer Krex. Their ambassador's shuttle departed 6 cycles ago. No further communication. Admiral Vrex Thor barely looked up from the holographic war table, where thousands of Crixian ships were represented as purple dots surrounding a small blue sphere. As expected. They're likely paralyzed with indecision and fear. Primitive species always are. The war room of the Imperial flagship Inevitable Victory buzzed with activity as officers prepared for what they were already calling the 3-day war. Military analysts had concluded that Earth's defenses would collapse within 72 hours of first contact. I've studied their military doctrine extensively, boasted Strategic Commander Pelnar, gesturing to a floating display of Earth's known defensive capabilities. Their ships are bulky, unrefined. They still use physical projectiles in some of their weapon systems. Absolutely charming, like watching infants play with building blocks. Vrex Thor's mouth tentacles curled in amusement. And their command structure? hierarchical and slow. Their chain of command requires multiple authorizations for any significant military action. We estimate 17 Earth hours between our first strike and their organized response. Emperor Zoltan himself had made a rare appearance via hologram to observe the war preparations. His ancient face, crisscrossed with the ceremonial scars of 200 military campaigns, looked almost disappointed. I had hoped for more of a challenge from these humans, the Emperor mused. Their diplomatic representatives showed such spirit. A pity their military capabilities don't match their boldness. The humans have an odd cultural obsession with the concept of underdogs, your luminance, offered cultural analyst Thex. They romanticize battles where a weaker force overcomes superior opposition. How charming, the Emperor replied. Then we shall give them the courtesy of remembering their noble defeat in our historical archives. Perhaps a small museum exhibit on their briefly significant civilization. The assembled officers chittered in appreciation of the Emperor's magnanimity. Admiral Vrex Thor turned to the fleet deployment officer. Status of the invasion force? Invasion Fleet Prime will reach Earth's solar system in 48 cycles, Admiral. 25,000 warships, including 50 planet crackers, as requested. Excellent. Though I doubt we'll need the planet crackers. The humans will surrender once we neutralize their orbital defenses. A junior officer approached with a data crystal. Sir, we've detected unusual activity in Earth's Kuiper Belt region. Some kind of energy signatures our sensors can't identify. Admiral Vrex Thor waved a dismissive tentacle. Probably evacuating civilians. Tag it for monitoring, but it's low priority. The junior officer hesitated. It's just the energy output is massive, sir. Nothing in our database matches it. Lieutenant, the Crixian Imperial database contains every form of technology developed in this galaxy for the past 15,000 years. If it's not in our records, it's not worth our concern. Vrex Thor turned back to the war table. Now, prepare the traditional pre-war victory celebration. I want the fleet commanders properly motivated. As the officers dispersed to prepare for the celebration, cultural analyst Thex quietly accessed his terminal and pulled up an old human historical text. Something about the humans' calm reaction bothered him. The text on his screen quoted an ancient Earth military strategist, "Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak." He quickly closed the file. Such primitive wisdom couldn't possibly apply to modern galactic warfare. Could it? Men. The first strike fleet departed for Earth the next cycle, 25,000 ships strong, their hulls gleaming with the confidence of an empire that had never known defeat. Admiral Vrex Thor was enjoying his 9th celebratory fermented nectar when the first reports came in. Sir. The communications officer's voice had risen by several octaves. We've lost contact with the Vanguard fleet. Vrex Thor blinked his 4 eyes in sequence, trying to process the information through his intoxicated haze. All 13 ships? Simultaneously? Yes, sir. Last transmission indicated they were preparing to exit hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. The celebration in the war room quickly dissolved as officers rushed back to their stations. Vrex Thor straightened his ceremonial armor and attempted to look composed. Sensor malfunction, obviously, he declared. The humans don't have technology capable of. Incoming transmission. The communications officer practically shrieked. It's from the humans. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the face of a stern-looking woman with dark hair pulled back tightly, wearing what appeared to be a simple blue uniform with minimal ornamentation. This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force. Your Vanguard fleet has been neutralized. They were warned. They didn't listen. Admiral Vrex Thor's mouth tentacles writhed in confusion. Impossible. Where is our fleet? Rodriguez's expression didn't change. Currently? Scattered across about 3 light-years of space. We tried to contain the mess, but quantum displacement leaves quite a footprint. Quantum displacement? Cultural analyst Thix whispered. They don't have that technology. Our intelligence confirmed. Your intelligence is outdated, Rodriguez interrupted, somehow hearing the whispered comment. We've been monitoring your communications since you declared war. Sloppy encryption, by the way. Rex Thor puffed up his thorax in outrage. This is some kind of deception. The main fleet will arrive in 28 cycles, and then you'll experience the true might of the Crixian Empire. Rodriguez actually smiled at that. We're counting on it. We've prepared a proper welcome. She leaned closer to the camera. Here's some free advice. Your ships might want to avoid the gravitational singularity mines we've scattered throughout your planned approach vector. They tend to, well, you saw what happened to your Vanguard. The transmission cut off abruptly. Rex Thor turned to his intelligence officers, all four eyes wide with shock. Gravitational singularity mines? That's theoretical technology. Even our best scientists haven't. Sir, the sensor officer interrupted, we're detecting massive energy signatures throughout the Sol system. They appear to be materializing from nowhere. The holographic display updated to show Earth's solar system. Where there had been minimal defenses in their intelligence reports, now there were thousands of previously undetected structures and ships. They were hiding their defenses, Rex Thor muttered. But how did we miss this? Our scans. Admiral, Thix said quietly, I've been reviewing human historical texts. They have a concept they call Potemkin villages, false facades designed to deceive observers about their true capabilities. Before Rex Thor could respond, the communications system crackled again. This time it was a different human, a man with dark skin and a scarred face, wearing what looked like primitive cloth and leather garments rather than a proper uniform. This is Lieutenant Theo Harrison, but you can call me Havoc. I'll be personally escorting your main fleet to Hell in about, he checked a mechanical device on his wrist, 27 of your cycles. Just wanted to introduce myself beforehand. I'm old-fashioned that way. The man grinned, showing teeth that had been filed to points, a bizarre affectation that sent a shiver through Rex Thor's exoskeleton. Your primitive threats don't frighten the Crixian Empire, Rex Thor declared, though his voice lacked conviction. Not trying to frighten you, Havoc replied. Just giving you a sporting chance to turn around. Captain Rodriguez prefers clean victories. Me? I like to get messy. 26 cycles later, the main Crixian fleet emerged from hyperspace, directly into the largest ambush in galactic history. How? Emperor Zoltan's hologram demanded, his ancient face twisted with rage. How did 20,000 ships simply disappear? Admiral Rex Thor stood before the imperial projection, his once pristine armor now scorched and dented. The command center of the backup flagship Unyielding Dominance was operating on emergency power, the lighting dim and red. Not disappeared, your luminance, Rex Thor corrected weakly. Destroyed. Or captured. Impossible. The Emperor roared, causing the damaged hologram to flicker. No force in this galaxy could defeat our main battle fleet. The humans, Rex Thor hesitated, struggling to explain the inexplicable. They didn't fight like any species we've encountered. They had technology we've never seen, weapons that shouldn't exist. Cultural analyst Thix stepped forward, his normally immaculate uniform stained with hydraulic fluid. Your luminance, they used our own hyperspace lanes against us. They created distortions. Ships emerged from hyperspace directly inside stellar bodies or immediately collided with precisely placed asteroid fields. And this, Lieutenant Harrison? The Emperor asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Rex Thor's exoskeleton trembled at the name. He led a small force of ships, if you can call them ships, that seemed to phase in and out of reality. They would appear within our formation, deployed devices that disabled our systems and vanished before we could target them. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. And what of our colonies in the Orion Arm? Have they been informed of the situation? The communications officer looked up from her console, her 4 eyes wide with panic. We've lost contact with all colonial outposts in the sector, Your Luminance. Our last reports indicated human ships were appearing in multiple systems simultaneously. Simultaneously? That's not possible. The distances between stars. They don't seem concerned with what's possible, Thex interrupted, then immediately prostrated himself for the breach of protocol. Forgiveness, Your Luminance, but the humans appear to operate outside conventional understanding of space-time constraints. The Emperor's hologram flickered again, this time from transmission interference rather than damage. We are receiving reports that human forces have been detected in the Crixian home system. Confirm. The bridge fell silent. Every officer stared at the Emperor's hologram in disbelief. That's not possible, Rex Thor whispered. Even with their technology, they couldn't have reached the core worlds this quickly. The distance. The Emperor bellowed. The sensor officer frantically worked her console. Scanning, no, there's nothing in our weight. She froze. Multiple contacts detected. They're everywhere. How did they get past the defensive grid? The main view screen activated automatically, displaying an incoming transmission. Every officer on the bridge felt their exoskeletons contract in fear as they recognized the human with the pointed teeth. Hey, Admiral Squidface, Lieutenant Havoc grinned. Miss me? Gotta say, your homeworld has some beautiful architecture. Shame what's about to happen to it. Rex Thor's mouth tentacles contracted in rage. You barbaric. You. Now, Havoc interrupted. No need for name-calling. I'm actually calling with a courtesy warning. In about 3 minutes, Captain Rodriguez is going to begin her assault on your capital. Emperor Wrinkles might want to evacuate his palace. The Emperor's hologram turned from Rex Thor to address the human directly. This is Emperor Zoltan, ruler of the Crixian Empire for 700 years. Who are you to threaten our eternal capital? Our planetary defenses are impenetrable. Havoc's grin widened impossibly. Funny thing about impenetrable defenses, they're great against attacks from the outside. He paused dramatically. Not so effective against attacks from the inside. What do you mean, human? The Emperor demanded. Those primitive projectile weapons you mocked? We've spent the last 3 centuries perfecting them. Right now, about 10,000 kinetic bombardment rods are falling through your atmosphere. We launched them 6 hours ago from stealth platforms we installed in your upper atmosphere last week. As if on cue, the distant sound of explosions could be heard through the Emperor's transmission. Impossible, the Emperor whispered, looking off-screen at something the bridge crew couldn't see. Our sensors would have detected. Carbon fiber and ceramic composites, Havoc explained cheerfully. No metal components, no heat signature. Just good old-fashioned rocks falling from the sky at about 30 kilometers per second. Like I told your admiral here, I like to get messy. The transmission cut off as the Emperor's hologram dissolved into static. The imperial palace of Emperor Zoltan had stood for 12,000 years. Its crystalline spires had weathered solar flares, meteor showers, and 43 attempted coups. It had been considered the most secure structure in the known galaxy. It took 17 minutes to fall. The Emperor himself watched from his emergency bunker, carved deep into the planet's crust, as the palace collapsed under the human bombardment. Each impact sent shockwaves through the bedrock, causing dust to drift down from the bunker ceiling. Your Luminance, General Krex announced, we've established contact with the 5th Reserve Fleet. They're attempting to reach the homeworld, but human forces have established blockades in every approaching hyperspace lane. How many ships remain in our defense? the Emperor asked, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. Across all core worlds? Perhaps 3,000, your luminance? And the humans? General Crex hesitated. We cannot get an accurate count. Their ships appear and disappear from our sensors. Conservative estimates suggest at least 15,000 vessels, but what, General? But some intelligence analysts believe they may be projecting false signatures. The actual number could be much smaller or considerably larger. The Emperor turned to a different screen, showing a tactical display of the Crixian capital. Red icons representing human forces surrounded the planet. In the upper atmosphere, thousands of kinetic projectiles continued to rain down on military installations. Why haven't they targeted civilian centers? The Emperor wondered aloud. A human voice answered from the communication system, because we're not monsters, Emperor Zoltan. The screens in the bunker flickered, and Captain Elena Rodriguez appeared on every one of them simultaneously. She was now wearing what appeared to be battle armor, though it looked strangely lightweight compared to Crixian combat gear. How did you penetrate our secure communications? The Emperor demanded. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. The same way we penetrated everything else in your empire. You've been predictable for too long. 12,000 years of unchallenged dominance made you complacent. The Emperor's four eyes blinked in different patterns, betraying his confusion and fear. What do you want, human? To destroy our civilization? To rule our worlds? Neither, Rodriguez replied. We want you to stop being bullies. We tried diplomacy. Commander Novak spent 3 years trying to make you understand that expansion through military force isn't sustainable. So this is about revenge? The Emperor asked. Rodriguez actually laughed. No, this is about education. You needed to learn that declaring war should be your last option, not your first. Unfortunately, you chose to learn the hard way. Another explosion rocked the bunker, closer this time. That wasn't us, Rodriguez said, looking slightly offended. That's your own troops trying to break in and assassinate you. Apparently, losing a war in 6 days isn't great for imperial approval ratings. The Emperor's face darkened. What are your terms? Unconditional surrender of all Crixian military forces. A new constitution establishing democratic representation for all worlds in your empire. And reparations to the colonies you've subjugated over the millennia. You would destroy us completely, the Emperor hissed. No, Rodriguez countered firmly. We're giving you a chance to evolve. The Crixian Empire can become the Crixian Republic. Your species has remarkable achievements in art, science, and culture. It's only your political system that's rotten. Another explosion shook the bunker, and warning lights flashed as the outer doors began to fail. You have 30 seconds to decide, Emperor, Rodriguez said calmly. My forces can secure your location and ensure your safety, or I can leave you to face your general's coup. Choose wisely. On 17 core worlds of the Crixian Empire, Earth's flag, a simple blue field with the outline of Earth's continents in white, was raised over smoking governmental buildings. Not a single civilian population center had been targeted. As the Emperor was escorted to a human diplomatic vessel, he watched in shocked silence as his own citizens lined the streets, not in protest but in celebration. 1 year later, Commander Jack Novak stood before the Galactic Council again. The chamber was exactly as he remembered it, with one notable difference. The Crixian delegation now consisted of elected representatives rather than imperial appointees. The Earth Confederation thanks the Council for recognizing the newly established Crixian Republic, Novak began. We look forward to peaceful cooperation between our peoples. Ambassador Krell, now serving as a democratically elected representative rather than an imperial mouthpiece, rose from his seat. His 4 eyes blinked in a pattern that Novak had come to recognize as humility, a rare sight in Crixians. The Crixian people extend our gratitude to Earth for their instructive intervention, Krell stated. While the transition has been challenging, our worlds are experiencing unprecedented growth and stability under the new constitutional system. Novak nodded diplomatically, suppressing a smile. Sometimes the most painful lessons are the most valuable. High Counselor Zentrix, now sporting civilian attire instead of his former military regalia, cleared his throat awkwardly. The Council wishes to formally acknowledge Earth's petition to establish a galactic non-aggression treaty. After recent events, we unanimously support this initiative. Funny how perspectives change, Novak remarked. After the session, Novak found former Emperor Zoltan waiting near the Earth delegation's shuttle. The once imposing ruler now wore simple civilian clothes, his ceremonial scars covered with regenerative bandages. Commander Novak, the former emperor, greeted him. "I wanted to thank you personally." Novak raised an eyebrow. "For deposing you and dismantling your empire?" "For saving my species from itself," Zoltan replied seriously. 12 millennia of martial culture had left us stagnant, unable to conceive of alternatives. That's surprisingly insightful coming from a former dictator. Zoltan's mouth tentacles formed what Novak had learned was a Crixian smile. "I've been studying human literature during my rehabilitation. Your species has a remarkable capacity for self-reflection." "We've had plenty of practice making catastrophic mistakes," Novak admitted. "There's something I still don't understand," Zoltan said. "Your species possessed this devastating military capability all along, yet you genuinely sought to avoid conflict. Why?" Novak considered the question carefully. "Because we remember our own history. We nearly destroyed ourselves countless times before we learned that power without restraint isn't strength, it's just dangerous." As Novak boarded his shuttle, his AI assistant updated him on the latest reports. The Crixian Republic's economy has grown 17% under the new constitution, the AI reported. And applications to Earth universities from Crixian students have increased by 8,000%. "Any signs of military resurgence?" Novak asked. "Negative. Their new planetary defense systems are being built to Earth specifications, with safeguards against offensive deployment." Novak looked out the viewport as the shuttle left the council station. In the distance, he could see a Crixian diplomatic vessel departing alongside ships from a dozen other species. Its hull had been repainted with the new Republic's emblem, the traditional Crixian imperial crest, now surrounded by olive branches. "You know," Novak mused to his AI, "there's an old human saying, si vis pacem, parabellum. If you want peace, prepare for war." "A common misunderstanding," the AI replied. "Your actual history suggests a more accurate phrase would be, if you want peace, make war so terrifying that no one ever wants to experience it again." Novak chuckled. "Add that to the diplomatic handbook. And make sure it's on the first page." Across the galaxy, species that had once dismissed humans as paranoid primitives now observed Earth with newfound respect, and more than a little fear. The message was clear: mock humanity's fear of war at your peril. Because when humans finally decide to fight, they don't just win battles, they rewrite the rules of warfare itself. And somewhere in what used to be the Crixian Imperial Palace, Lieutenant Havoc Harrison was teaching a group of former Imperial guards how to play poker. He was, predictably, cleaning them out,